afraid. Afraid of his baby being born. They're shaking in their boots. Why? Why are we so afraid of this little baby? For a lot of reasons. One, he's been proclaimed already as a new king. King Herod is king. King Herod likes being king. King Herod has already killed relatives to make sure he stays king. Now there's a new king on the block who's going to be in his way. That's not good for him. It also is a scary thing because it's going to disrupt the status quo. It's going to disrupt everything they already have going on. When a new king comes into power, does everything stay the same? No. Think about when we get a new head coach. When the Lions hired Matt Patricia, did he keep all the assistants? No. Well, he kept one. He's now gone too. Got a whole new regime coming in. Everything changes. People who think they have all the power are going to lose some of that power. Maybe some people who didn't have any are going to be lifted up. And these people like having power. They like having control. Don't we all? Do you all like having some amount of control in our lives? Some ability to say, I'm going to do what I want to do. Or sometimes I can get someone else to do what I want them to, get them to do what I want them to do. It's a great feeling. Having kids doesn't always work out. Probably should, but no, it doesn't. So here they have so much power and so much control, and that's what they want to have. And when they see a new king coming around, they're going to think, maybe I can lose some of that power, I can lose some of that control. He's going to take some of that away from me. Because they're confused about what kind of king they're about to get. For Herod and all of Jerusalem, they see power and they think of power. Because I can use it to benefit myself. And that's not how Christ operates. Christ doesn't see power and say, I get to use this power for myself. But instead, whatever power I have, I cannot use it for someone else. I cannot use it for others. This power that I've been given is a wonderful gift. It is maybe who I am, and I get to give it. We follow a God who doesn't come down to us in grand splendor, but came to us in a manger, in a feeding trough. And we follow a God for some of the first guests he gets, although really probably about 2 years at this point, sorry to burst your bubbles, are these three, or the name says three, some number of wise guys come show up. And who can tell me what these people are who show up, by the way? What? Astronomers? Almost. Astrologers. One studies the stars to study the stars. One studies the stars to make a fortune. They're fortune tellers. They're like the fortune cookies of the day. They're wandering around, they're saying, hey, I saw this star, it looks pretty impressive. Let's go follow it. Okay, maybe if you're on a boat, you're looking at the North Star, make sure you know where you're going. But how many of us ever go in our daily lives, hey, there's a really bright star over there, I'm going to follow it. Seems a bit silly, doesn't it? These astrologers, what kind of hats they wore? They weren't the crowns you see in your little nativity scenes. And maybe you've seen like a wizard with the big hat with all the stars and moons on it. Like in Mickey Mouse and Fantasia. That's what they wore. And go change until you see me get home. Feel free. I won't be allowed to. So you guys in pointy hats with stars and moons wandering through the desert following a star. Do you think they're all that impressive? Think people take them all that seriously? How many times do you take your fortune telling all that seriously? When you look in the newspaper, if you read one, and you find your horoscope, do you think that's going to be what my day today is going to be like? Probably not. They weren't seen all that great and high and mighty. We want them to be, right? We want to have these kings showing up to show how his earthly power just brings more power to Christ. But no, it's these crazy guys who look at the stars and say, you're going to meet a nice, handsome man on a boat. And these guys show up because they can see the signs. They're not part of the usual suspects. They're not part of the usual crowd that's been doing the same thing over and over and over again for generations. They're not trying to impress the king and make sure that the king likes them. Make sure everything they say falls in line with whatever he wants. Instead, they see a sign from God and they follow it. And everyone's afraid that everything's going to change. Because these guys saw a star. And they knew that it meant a new king was born. But one not who's going to come in with all this power and might. One who's going to be born in this manger and grow up and die on a cross. This king who's all about sacrificial love. This king who says, I'm going to give completely of myself so that you may have life within you. And I wonder at times how often it is that we find ourselves being the scribes and all these people around the king and not the crazy astrologers. Often we look around and say, here's how God operates because it works best for me. Often we look around and say, the status quo just has to be kept and met. That tradition is king. That nothing can change. The weird thing about our faith is that over the years and over the generations, it seems that came about more and more about power too. And more about how can we control people around us. How can we shame put upon people? How do we see that in the news too? How many times we just get a bit terrified when we see the name of a Christian in the news and say, what did they do now? That's not how our faith was ever built. Our faith isn't built on power. Our faith is built on giving of ourselves completely. A faith that is built on love for others more than ourselves. And a faith that's willing to look outside all the world tells us is important. We're going to look outside and say, wait a minute. What is it that God is calling for us to do? Where's this star we're meant to follow? Now that we find stars that are not God's placement, we keep following them because it seems to be the right thing to do, or what our parents did before us. Instead of figuring out that maybe God has a different calling for each time, each place, for each person. Follow a God who is not about power. I mean, follow a God who says that the status quo is never really good enough. That things need shaken up. that things need to change, that things need to keep on getting better and better for everyone. As God came to us among the lowly, kept bringing disciples among the lowly, lifting everyone up as he went around. Except for those who like to shame and exert power over others. We have this season coming up, this season following Epiphany. The season that He's calling for us to look and hear the voices of those we don't normally listen to, we don't normally see. May we throughout this evening, throughout our lives, keep trying to look for that star. To not put our focus on how things always have been, on how things I want them to be for myself, on how I might exert some sort of control or power over someone else. But instead, may we focus our vision always on God's calling for us, of God's purpose for us. That may be a blessing to many, no matter how foolish we may look at times. Amen.